morning. Are you good? Okay, I know you're eating your lunch. Feel free to keep eating your lunch. If you need to shift your chairs, I'm casual. We're just gonna have fun today. This is a real honor for me to be at the National Cowboy Museum because the first time I ever came here, I was a freshman in college. And I got to walk through these halls and see some of the cowboy and cowgirl heroes that I had watched growing up. So this is cool. I'm gonna share a little bit of my story and we're gonna expand on careers in agriculture. Okay, have you discovered some really cool careers in ag today that you didn't even know exist? I walked in and I did. Yeah, let's see some hands. Okay, for sure. There are some really cool opportunities in ag, and so I'm just gonna expand on those and share a bit of my story. Before I share my story, I wanna hear from you. And I've always wanted to be a teacher that gets to call on people, so if nobody raises their hands, but what do you think about? What comes to mind when you hear the words agriculture? What comes to mind when you think about careers in ag? Just shout it out. Cowboys, cattle ranching, farmers, horses, what else? Anybody else? Cows, all of the things, right? Okay, you nailed it. So when you think about careers in ag, sometimes these are the sort of pictures and images that come to mind. The very first thing someone said was cowboys, ranching, right? That is a beautiful career and profession in agriculture. But you know what's amazing when you look at a picture like this? I see several hundred different career paths when I look at an image like this. I mean, look at this, right? Maybe they're riding horses and ranching, raising cattle. Maybe they're feeding the world. But you know what? They're all wearing cowboy hats. Somebody has to make those cowboy hats, right? Maybe you love to create things. All those horses have bits in their mouths. Those cowboys have spurs on their feet. The livestock that they are raising, right? Somebody's got to keep them healthy. There are hundreds of different careers in this one photo. You talk about farming. Maybe you're interested in the farming side of things, right? Growing the food that people eat. Did you know that 2% of the population, our farmers and ranchers, feed the 98%? Talk about a cool career. How many of you would be proud to say, I feed the world for a living? That is so cool. But again, when I look at this, I see hundreds of professions. Maybe you like to build things. Maybe you're into mechanics. Somebody's got to build the equipment that these farmers are using. Maybe you love science. Somebody has to develop the seeds that they are planting, right? Farming, ranching. These are all traditional ag roles. And you also think of livestock, right? We heard horses and cattle, goats, sheep, pigs, poultry. There are hundreds, thousands of career paths in agriculture. Maybe you're thinking, I don't know if I want to ranch, but I certainly love animals. Maybe I'd like to be the person that takes care of the animals. Well, I have great news for you. One of the best veterinary schools in the country is right up the road in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Yeah, go Pokes. There are so many different career paths in ag. We're gonna talk about the traditional ones, but we're also gonna talk about the untraditional ones. Because my path in agriculture, it started out pretty traditional, but it definitely has taken some left turns. This is me. This is a portion of my ranching family. So I grew up in ag. I was born into it. 5th generation in a ranching family from Kansas. We have a cow-calf operation. My grandfather, 85 years old, my pappy, he still saddles his horse every morning and heads out at 5 a.m. to do things that an 85-year-old probably shouldn't be doing. But that is what he loves, right? He loves being a rancher. So this is me. I grew up in ag. I was blessed to be born into it. There are some of you, like me in this room, who probably are born into it, right? It's all you've ever known. But there might be some of you in this room who have never even considered a career in ag until today. Maybe you live in the city. Maybe you didn't even know the National Cowboy Museum existed. I'm here to tell you, there is a place for agriculture, a place in agriculture for each and every one of you. So this is me. This is my upbringing. I grew up, just ranching, helping my family feed the world. And this would be a typical experience in my day-to-day for a portion of my life, right? So I asked you at the beginning, what do you think about when you think about ag? These images look pretty stereotypically agriculture. And my family is still making a living and a career in ag. And I am so very, very proud of that. And I am so proud of the work that they are doing. That's the cool thing about agriculture. A career in ag is bigger than you. You're not just showing up for a paycheck. When you pursue a career in ag, you guys, you're doing something that really matters. You're doing something that affects the rest of the world. And that is pretty dang honorable, okay? So let's back it up to the beginning. As I said, I grew up in ag. I was just a little cowgirl from a tiny town in Kansas called Tonganoxie, okay? Nobody knows where that is, and nobody has ever heard of it. That's where I grew up, in rural America. And all I was concerned with was being a cowgirl. That was my career path. If I could have made a resume, I would have just written cowgirl at the top, period. That's all I wanted to do. This is my very first pony, okay? Her name is Tiny Mite. Tiny Mite was a hand-me-down from my mom and uncle. She's like roughly 157 in that photo. Tiny Mite had seen some things, okay? But all I wanted to do was ride my horse and show cattle. I grew up showing Angus cattle all over the country, so agriculture, traditional ag, that was my story. I also had a little bit of a flair for aggressive fashion choices. You know, even the red outfit, it was a matching. The boots matched, the belt matched, the shirt, the purple. I was very into monochromatic as a child, apparently. But this is a part of my story. And later, my love of fashion would play a role in my ag career. So this is me, this is where it started, and then eventually I made one of the best decisions I've ever made, and I headed to, in my biased opinion, the greatest university in all of the land, Oklahoma State. Do we have any OSU fans? Thank you. Yes. Go Pokes. I encourage each and every one of you to visit all of their various booths out here. Oklahoma State was the greatest time of my life, and I loved every single minute of that. And I don't just say that, I had a lot of fun. Because you see, I arrived at Oklahoma State, up in Stillwater, with a truck, a trailer, 4 horses, and 2 goats. Yee, it was ranchy, okay? I came into Stillwater hot, because I wanted to compete on the rodeo team. So I was on the college rodeo team at Oklahoma State. There may be some of you in the room today are like, holy cow, I didn't even know that universities and colleges had rodeo teams. I live in Dallas, Texas, and it's like the best party trick to be like, I was on the rodeo team. And you would think in Texas, they'd be like, oh yes, of course. And they're like, come again? I'm like, yeah, I was on the rodeo team. Maybe you love to rope and ride. There are a lot of people making really great careers out of being rodeo athletes, out of being horse trainers. Again, there are so many different ways that you can be a part of this. So I roll up to Oklahoma State, if I'm being honest, to rodeo, but I did also have to go to class. So I decided, I don't know what I want to do. I'm probably going to go to the National Finals Rodeo. That was my career goal. But I decided I would major in, agricultural communications. I had no idea what that entailed, and I had really no idea what a career path in ag comm would look like, but I loved the classes. I got to learn to write. I got to take photographs, videos, graphic design. I got to do a lot of really cool things at Oklahoma State, including traveling with the rodeo team right here to this. I don't know if you recognize those pictures in the back, in the middle, to the Cowboy Hall of Fame. And I remember coming here with the rodeo team, and it was the coolest experience. We were helping with some sort of like a live auction or something, I don't even remember, but I got to meet this woman in the middle. That is a woman by the name of Pam Minnick. And Pam Minnick had been like this hero of mine growing up because she was one of the first female broadcasters in Western sports. She was like way ahead of her time. And so I got to take a picture with Pam Minnick, and I was like, man, I have made it. This is cool. So this is my story. It's very traditional ag, right? I go to an ag school. I'm on the rodeo team. I grew up on a ranch. Ag is really all I know. I major in ag communication, so it would have made sense to, write for a publication or to maybe take photos for a Western magazine or publication. But my career path kind of like did a 180. And it sort of went down the route of not always that traditional. And in fact, the agriculture community, they didn't really know what to do with me for many years. And I have some more photos I'm gonna share, but I thought, you know what, I'm gonna put a video together because it's really hard for me to explain all of the different careers that I have. I have several jobs, yes. Newsflash, you might have more than one career in ag, and I think that's amazing. So can I share this video with you? I just wanna give you a taste for what my career in agriculture looks like. Take a look.
Let's welcome to the stage our keynote speaker of convention, Miss Courtenay DeHoff.
This house is rocking this morning, FFA. Deary. He actually came out on top of the raining, and I was holding my breath.
Courtenay DeHoff and her partners, top dollar. They really have picked a great one in this one.
I am on my way out of Globe Life Field, but I had to stop and tell you about the American Performance Horsemen. Both times that you've won world championships, you've won this event here at the Garden. You told me earlier you've always wanted to get on this bull. What'd you think?
Oh, that bull was awesome.
Is there anything more American than cowboys, cowgirls, rodeo, and rock and roll, my friend?
I kind of hope not. I hope not.
I was made for this. You know that I was made for this. I was made for this. You know that I was made for this.
I'm Court. I'm Kaya. And we're the Back Road Cowgirls.
I have family walking my family around.
I want to thank you guys for letting a little cowgirl from Kansas stand on this stage. Thank you. I have had the opportunity to do some really cool things in ag. And everything you saw in that video never once crossed my mind. It didn't cross my mind when I was at Oklahoma State, and even for many years after I graduated, I could not find my place in ag. I could not figure out where I could add value to the agriculture industry. So I get to do a lot of cool stuff, and we'll go through some of that. I graduate from Oklahoma State University, and I had decided I was gonna be a television host. That was my career path. That is all I wanted to do, was to be a great storyteller. And I got to hang out and interview some pretty cool people. How about this Oklahoma State alum? Does anybody recognize that guy, right? I got to do some cool stuff. I got to walk red carpets. I got to tell great stories. Some of them were agriculture related and some of them were not. Now my goal, my dream, was to someday be on TV in New York. I wanted to be on television in the biggest markets in the country. And when I would tell agents and managers in the TV business, do you want to know the first thing that they told me? I would say, my goal is to be on TV in New York. I went to Oklahoma State. I'm from a ranch in Kansas. And they would pause and they would look at me and they would say, oof. If you ever want to be taken seriously in the world of television, if you want to play with the big boys in New York and LA, you're going to have to take the cowboy hat off. I had an agent tell me people will look at you the way you're dressed and they're going to just think that you're, like uneducated. So this is my story. I grew up ag. I'm 5th generation. I was born, bred, and raised. I went to an agriculture school, and I turned my back on agriculture for a decade. Because y'all, for 10 years, I listened. I landed the next big fancy TV job, but I took the cowboy hat off and I hid the cowboy boots in the back of my closet. Because I was being told you have to choose between your passion of being on TV in the big cities and your background. You have to choose. You can't have both. You can't be the TV host and the ag kid. I was 23 years old, and that was my dream. So I listened. And I landed TV job after TV job. And before the age of 30, I was working at the network TV level. I was doing hard news. I was covering news that was affecting Americans and people all around the world. That's what I did every single day. I was making the money. I had landed the dream job. I was interviewing Garth Brooks and all the famous people. I was talking to people in Washington. I was doing all the things. And I had never been more unfulfilled and unhappy in my life. How could I have achieved my dream and it not been enough? It took me a decade to figure out what was missing. And I would imagine that most of you in this room probably already have an idea of what was missing. I was hiding the best part of who I was. Because every single day when I walked into the TV station dressed like this, the high heels, the dress, reading the words in the box that someone else had approved and written, every single day when I walked in there, I looked the part. I sounded the part. I can go into a professional TV voice, okay? But it was the cowgirl and agriculture values that kept me alive in that volatile business. It was the agriculture community that was still, I knew, supporting me from afar that kept me going. And so in 2017, I had finally sort of had enough. And I pitched a story to my executive producer about wildfires that were affecting Kansas, Oklahoma, Colorado. And I said, look, this is a story worth telling. It's affecting our farmers and our ranchers. And my boss looked at me and she said, need I remind you, this is a real news network. Don't ever bring me your little cowgirl problems again. And that was the moment that my career path took a turn. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I was so mad and I was so upset and hurt for my ag community that I told the story anyway. I posted it on my little Facebook page. I didn't have a following. I had like a couple hundred followers, like my mom and her friends, right? But I thought, I'm gonna post this story and maybe if just one person sees it, it will make an impact. I posted this wildfire story. I went to bed, I woke up the next morning, it had been viewed 1.5 million times. That was the day that the girl that was embarrassed to wear the cowboy hat and put the boots on and talk about ag and where she was from, that was the day that she woke up. Because I would then go in every morning to this news station, I'd read the national headlines, and then I would go home to my apartment in a high-rise in the middle of one of the biggest cities in America, and I would tell ag stories. And my following started to grow. And more importantly, I started to feel like I had real value, right? I told you in the beginning, agriculture is different. A job in ag is bigger than you. And I started to feel fulfilled. And then this crazy thing happened. These ag groups, who I had ignored for 10 years, they started calling me on the phone. And they're like, hey, Ms. DeHoff, we've seen your stories on Facebook. Would you be interested in being our keynote speaker? And I'm like, yes, absolutely, I would love to be. And then I would hang up the phone and I would get on Google and I would Google, what is a keynote speaker? I didn't know what that meant, but I had the courage to say yes. I had the courage to show up. Throughout your ag career, you're gonna have the courage to say yes to opportunities that maybe you don't even fully understand. You're gonna have the courage to show up and try new things. There may be ag careers that you try that you're like, yes, this is it, this is my calling. You may try 150 that you hate. Keep going, keep showing up, because there's something out there for you. So suddenly I'm a TV host in the biggest cities in America, but on the weekends I get to put on my cowboy hat and my cowboy boots and I get to get on stages like these. And I started speaking to more and more groups. I even had the honor and the privilege of keynoting the National FFA Convention to 65,000 students inside Lucas Oil Stadium where the Indianapolis Colts play. Wow. That little girl at Oklahoma State could have never imagined that I could make an agriculture speaking career a thing. It was incredible. So I started speaking to more and more ag groups, but what ag didn't realize about me is that I lived in a high-rise, that I was living in places like Dallas and Nashville and New York City. And then suddenly ag was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, this girl that's traveling all around talking about ag advocacy and teaching us how to share our ag stories and talking about ag careers, whoa, she doesn't even have an ag career. And agriculture sort of canceled me before like canceling people was cool, right? Now we cancel everybody. And I was so hurt because I was like, man, I I felt like I'd finally maybe found a path in ag, but the minute I didn't look the part, the minute I didn't live the lifestyle, the minute I didn't have the same exact beliefs, they wrote me off. And that's really been the culmination of my journey. And that was when I finally realized, you know what? Sometimes in ag, you have to create your own career path. I want each and every one of you, real quick, take a moment. What is your passion? What do you love to do, right? Maybe it's a passion you've never even spoken out loud, but you know what it is inside. When you leave here today, you're going to continue thinking about that passion, and you're going to continue thinking about, how can I serve and give back to the ag community, and how can I turn my passion into an ag career? Because that is what I did. Something was born from my experience, because I decided to make my mess my message, my struggle, right? Man, I didn't fit into the TV world because I was a little too cowgirl, but I didn't really fit into the ag world because I wasn't cowgirl enough. You know what? I'm gonna be a fancy lady cowgirl. I'm gonna live in the biggest cities in America, and I'm still gonna work in ag. I'm gonna travel all over the world and interact with people that don't know even where their milk comes from, and I'm going to advocate and serve through that channel. There is a path for each and every one of you. So, to catch you all up, TV host, that's one of my careers, okay? Television host. And speaker, okay? So I kind of have two careers. And then suddenly, this community called Fancy Lady Cowgirl was born. And women started coming together, and they're like, hey, that girl is a little bit random. She's like into fashion, and she's like doing photo shoots, but she's also advocating for agriculture, and I guess she's like a TV host. Wow, we want to make our own path too. And so this Fancy Lady Cowgirl community was sort of accidentally, organically born. And through Fancy Lady Cowgirl, I now host yearly events where I'm able to empower women from all walks of life to live a piece of agriculture, no matter where they live. And Fancy Lady Cowgirl, you may have noticed in the video, has taken me around the world. My ag career has taken me to over 20 countries. My very first Fancy Lady Cowgirl event in Sydney, Australia happened earlier this year. Maybe you want to see the world. Your ag career can take you around the world. Your ag career can allow you to meet people that you would have never met, interact with people from all walks of life. You just have to have the courage to show up. You just have to have the courage to try new things. You have to have the courage to say, this is how I'm going to show up in agriculture, and this is how I'm going to serve the community. So, TV host, international speaker. Oh, and I have this Fancy Lady Cowgirl event. It's so cool, right? I have a merch line. I sell t-shirts and stickers. Like, there are so many opportunities that have come from this. So I've created this sort of random, but very, very fulfilling career. And to be honest, all of these different jobs that I've shared with you, this is how I keep my family's ranching legacy alive, right? This is how I continue to serve the community that raised me. This is how I still get to come and interact with cool people like each and every one of you. I'm showing up in the way that makes sense to me. And I encourage each and every one of you, as you start thinking about what a career in ag might look like for you, I encourage you to do the same. Don't let anyone else define, y'all, what your path in ag should look like. Because your career in ag, it can be as unique as you are. For 10 years, I hid from this community because I thought it was the only way I would be a successful television host. But eventually, I had the courage to step back in and to start talking about ag and stepping on stages. And you know what happened? Television opportunities in Western sports started coming my way. And my very first job back into the Western and agriculture side of things, as far as broadcasting and television hosting, was this tiny little gig at this arena called Madison Square Garden. And this group of dudes from the Professional Bull Riders Association called me and said, hey, we're looking for a sideline host. Do you know anything about bull riding? I'm like, well, I've seen it. I'm a rodeo kid. I didn't ride bulls, but I bet I can dang sure talk about it. And I'll never forget walking into Madison Square Garden, the most famous arena in the world, New York City, Manhattan. And I remember walking to this arena, and you walk through the tunnels, and it's like all the photos of anyone who's ever been there. Presidents, the Rolling Stones, LeBron, any famous, and I'm like, wow, I get to have a career in ag, and I get to walk the halls that these legends have walked? As the little girl at Oklahoma State who graduated and was told I could never wear my cowboy hat on TV and be taken seriously, she never could have imagined that someday she'd walk into the most famous arena in the world, New York. That was my goal. And it all started because I finally had the courage to just start showing up in ag my way, right? I just had the courage to say, look, if it doesn't make sense to you, if it doesn't make sense to you, maybe you're not my people. Here I am. This is how I'm going to serve this incredible community. And this is how I'm going to keep my family's legacy alive. And now to, I think, maybe career number 4. July of 2020, I was no longer working with the PBR because there's this little pandemic that really slowed things down. I was no longer working with the PBR, and I was really bummed because that was kind of my dream job. How does it get any cooler than that? And I got on Instagram, and I had a message from this strange girl, some weirdo, right, in my DMs. I didn't know her. And I opened it, and it said, "Sup, saw you on TV with the PBR. I was wondering, you want to own a bucking bull?" I said, "No, ma'am. I certainly do not want to own a What? I'm a television host. I'm a speaker. I'm the fancy lady cowgirl. I'm not a stock contractor, okay? Just because I can interview these guys doesn't mean I know anything about raising bucking bulls or being on the back of the chutes." I said, "No, thank you. Please don't ever contact me again." And then I became the owner of a PBR bucking bull. Top Dollar is his name. And I met this PBR, now 1,600-pound PBR bull as a yearling. And wow, y'all, when I say he was ugly, like that's being polite. He was this ugly, scrawny little white bull. I grew up with show heifers. I grew up showing Angus cattle. So I'm used to like big, beautiful, hairy. And I'm like, yikes, look at that bull, okay? And I remember I met my now partners, Katie and Laramie. I said, why me? Why do you want a girl who's never been on the back of the bucking chutes to own a bucking bull? And they said, because you know what? We've seen you speak, we've seen you on TV, and we think that you might just be the person that can show the world that anyone can be a stock contractor. I had never once in my life considered an ag career as a stock contractor. And to be fair, I don't call myself a stock contractor, I call myself a bull mom because that's a little more fitting for the role that I play, okay? So this is me and Top Dollar. And it has been the coolest journey. And one of the things that we've done with this bull, we have documented his ever-living life. Every second of this bull's existence, we have documented and put on social media. Has anyone ever seen Top Dollar's videos on social media? There are a few of them. The other day, like 2 weeks ago, I obviously didn't have much going on. I thought, I'm gonna add up how many video views this bull has, over 20 million. But what we've done is we've introduced the sport to a whole new audience of people. We've shown people around the world that stock contracting, raising livestock, that is a real profession and a real career in ag. And my only requirement when I met Katie and Laramie, I said, someday, I want to be able to pet him. And Laramie, bless his soul, he rolled his eyes into the back of his head after I left and sort of laughed and was like, yeah, that's unlikely. I give all credit to Katie. He is now a pet who loves snacks, naps, and scratches. So chalk up stock contractor or bull mom as a career path that I never saw coming. But I got to this point because I just kept showing up. When you think about your ag career, when you go home today and you're like, okay, maybe I can see myself working in ag. Or maybe some of you, I met a girl in the bathroom, she was like, yes, this is it. I might want to be a vet. I might want to be a wildlife biologist. Like she is naming it. I was like, yes, girl. And I looked at her and I said, do it all. Just show up. Try things. Do you want to know how I first discovered television? It was an internship at a little local television station right here in Oklahoma called Oklahoma Horizon TV. And I took that internship, if I'm being honest, because I thought it'd be cool to see my face on TV. But what I discovered is I had a real love and passion for storytelling. I just had the courage to show up. Try new things. I'm here to tell you right here, right now, today, you do not need to have it all figured out today. You do not need to know what your full career path is going to look like. You just saw me. I have 4 different jobs, and I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up, right? But the beauty of it is, there is a place in agriculture for all of you. Whatever it is you like to do, there is a career path for you. And I'm here to tell you, as someone who left ag and worked in the mainstream media and lived in the big cities, there are, if this is the only thing you take away today, there are no greater people than the people of ag. The values by which they live their life and do business is different. It is not like that everywhere. The people in this room, they will be your friends for life. It is not like that in what I call the real world. I left agriculture behind for a very long time, and the minute I decided to dip my toe back in, you want to know who the very first people were supporting me, who was on the front lines, who was sharing my videos, who was encouraging me? It was the majority of the people in ag. Yeah, there were some haters, but man, they did show up for me, most of them, right? The people in agriculture will take care of you, they will support you, they will promote you, they will nurture your dreams, and they will tell you that anything is possible. I'm standing on this stage telling you today, anything is possible in agriculture. I reached out to a few of my friends because I was like, I want to share my story with you, but I want to give you some other examples. So I literally shot a text message to about 30 of my friends, and the first people that answered, I was like, all right, I'm going to share y'all's story. So this is an easy one. This is my bull partner, Katie, okay? So this is Katie Perschbacher. She is a stock contractor in the bucking bull business. She raises all the way from futurity calves to PBR bulls. That's a famous bull. If you know bull riding, you might recognize Bad Beagle is his name. But Katie is a female in a very traditionally male-dominated world of bull riding, and she has completely made a career and a path for herself. She says, I've been able to meet some of my best friends through the bucking bull futurities, right? The first time I met Katie, she was a stranger, and today she is my family, simply because we share that agriculture bond. But I love this. Maybe the career that you saw today, you're like, ooh, that could be really cool. And then you go home and you're like, shoot, it's like all women or it's all men, doesn't matter. Break that barrier. Show up in whatever space brings you passion. So this is Katie, a stock contractor. Maybe you want to raise livestock. Maybe you want to be a traditional rancher. Maybe you want to focus on rodeo livestock, or you want to breed great performance horses. There are so many different opportunities in ag. This is my friend, Jeremy. So Jeremy is an actor and a model. I did a quick tour through the museum. Did anyone else see that Oscar? That Academy Award in the museum? Maybe you never considered that acting and modeling could be a career in ag. Jeremy said, I've never imagined I'd see myself on TV or in magazines, especially as a reflection of so many others out there just like me. Has anyone ever heard of a show, maybe not, called Yellowstone? Yeah, 1883. Jeremy has acted in 1883 and many other Western-focused shows. And he has used his platforms as an actor and as a model to advocate for the Native American community. Maybe you love to perform. Maybe you love to be on stage. Maybe you love to sing, to dance. That can be an ag career. And this is a prime example. What I'm trying to get across here is anything that you can imagine can be ag. You can show up and serve the agriculture community, whatever your passion may be. This is a great one. This is my friend, Mikan. So Mikan is what they call a stock dog trainer. And I have a video. I'm going to show you what it is he actually does. But Mikan says, I love dogs, so being able to work with my favorite animals is the greatest reward for me. And when I reached out to all of my friends, I said, hey, can you just give me a quote? And I even sent them this screenshot. I said, it's this long. I just need you to tell me what you love about ag because I want to share it with these kids. So Mikan wrote me a full letter. But I read this letter and I thought, man, I have to share this with you. I'm going to share a portion of it. Mikan wrote to me. He said, since I was a child, I've always had a different view on life than the people I was surrounded by. The life conditions during my childhood were very poor, and I mostly took care of myself. The probability of me becoming a successful was very low considering my surroundings. I was a boy living on the streets of Brazil, shining shoes to make a living. There was always something inside me, though, that drove me to become more. He said I had nothing. He was homeless. So he said I was not afraid to take risks. I started working for ranches at the age of 10. He showed up, right? He showed up and he tried new things. I started working for ranches at the age of 10 in exchange for food. As I got older, I got better positions, and then at the ranches, and there was a time when I encountered a stock dog. And that really changed the trajectory of my life. He would eventually move to Europe, where he tried to train stock dogs before coming to America. He said when him and his wife, Emma, moved to the United States, we got to see firsthand why you are sitting in the land of opportunity. He said in only a few years, we have experienced how much this country allows you to achieve if you will work for it. And I know you're ag kids, so I know you will work for it. He says, in the other countries that I've lived, I found hard work was not that rewarding, and I felt stuck. To me, it's incredibly inspiring and rewarding to be able to excel based on how much you work for it. Work ethic will pay off. He says, tell them work ethic will pay off. My word to all the young people in your audience is to be thankful that you live in this country and you have the opportunity that so many people don't. He says, I'm very thankful for being able to provide a service that is important for the ag industry and to be able to inspire more people to pursue a career in agriculture. This is a man who came from another country and was at one point homeless, and he has built a giant career in ag. He is one of the most renowned stock dog trainers in the world. He just launched his own line of American-made dog food. He is an author. You can buy his books to learn to train your own dogs. He puts on clinics. He has a television show on RFD TV called Mora Stock Dogs. This man is a prime example that if you have a passion in ag, you can create a space for yourself. And man, what he does is so cool. So I threw in a video that I want to share with y'all so you can see all the things that are possible. Isn't that cool? A man who grew up in another country and he paved his way in ag. So he trains these incredible dogs that essentially move livestock, and it is the wildest thing I have ever seen. I actually got to be on an episode of his TV show. He does that all with a whistle. And the show that I was on, a couple of the performance horse guys got to come and try it, and it was the biggest disaster you've ever seen. Their dogs were going in every direction but the direction they were supposed to be going. And then Mike stands up, does 3 whistles, and they start. It's incredible. But that's a powerful story. And that's a beautiful example that if you have a dream and you have a passion, you can create something very special in ag. A couple more. This is my friend Christopher Thompson, better known as Click Thompson. Maybe you love to take pictures. What I love about Click, who is a 2-time PRCA Photographer of the Year, Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association, he did not grow up in ag. He did not come from the Western lifestyle. He says, it wasn't originally part of my background, so for me, it's just icing on the cake. It's one thing to do the thing you always dreamed about, but it's another to do something you didn't even think was possible. This man captures some really cool images. The National Finals Rodeo and every rodeo in between, he is there. He even gets to photograph Post Malone. Anybody ever heard of him, right? You never know where agriculture can take you. Post Malone, probably not the first person you think of when you think of ag, although he is a Texan and I've seen him on a horse. But these are the type of experiences that agriculture can provide you. These images are beautiful and they're featured all over the world. A guy who didn't even grow up in the industry. Two more. This is Jess Perigo. She is a rancher from Nevada. They have a really impressive operation, hay and cattle. She says, if you aspire to be among the 2% who feed the 98%, seek out a role that aligns with your passion. If you can't find one, what are we gonna do? We're going to create it. Agriculture needs you, it needs all of us. Her and her family have an incredible ranching operation. They run cattle, they hay, they have a direct beef business, so people from all over the country can get online and buy beef right from their ranch. They have a steakhouse. This is really cool. You wanna know what generation Jess is? First. When they started out, she would get on YouTube and watch videos called Ranching for Dummies. That is how they learned to ranch. You don't have to be born into this. You don't need to be fifth generation. Maybe you're first generation. Maybe you've never been on a farm or ranch. I bet there are some of you in here today who have never been on a farm or ranch. You want to be a rancher? Go for it. It is absolutely possible. Maybe you've never seen a horse or a cow in real life, but you're like, yeah, I think that could be really cool. Show up. Have the courage to show up. Have the courage to start experiencing things. Take internships. Ask for opportunities. Get on YouTube and Google Ranching for Dummies. I think Jess is such a beautiful example that if you have a passion for it, you can create it. And finally, this is my friend Jenna Paulette. Jenna is a singer and a songwriter. She was recently inducted into the Grand Ole Opry. There are many of you, you may have likely heard some of her songs on country radio. Maybe you love to sing. Maybe you love to write music. Jenna writes beautiful songs about her life growing up in a ranching family in Oklahoma. She has now been to all of the big award shows. CMT named her one of the next women in country to watch. And what is so cool is her music talks about this way of life. And her music videos feature real life issues that farmers and ranchers are facing. This is a career in ag. Maybe you want to win a Grammy. There is a career path in agriculture for you. All right, I hope that the juice is flowing. I hope you're feeling inspired and encouraged. And before you leave today, maybe hit up some more of these booths and be like, okay, what other ways can I get involved? Ask for internships. Can you shadow somebody, right? Go over to the Oklahoma State University booth and say, how can I get involved right now today? I'm not old enough to come to the school yet, but I want to be part of ag. You got to have the courage to ask and to show up, because a career in ag sets you apart. And it will surround you with hard-working people whose values are truly unmatched. Take it from somebody who left ag. This is where you want to be. These are the people you want to be surrounded by. And there is nothing more honorable than being a part of this industry that feeds and clothes and provides for the world. And once you're part of this community, which you are, because when you walked into this building today, you all became part of the ag community. Once you're a part of it, you are family for life. You are family. And that family will offer a sense of purpose and fulfillment that you will not find anywhere else. Agriculture is special. Agriculture has taken me around the world. If you're sitting here today and you still don't really know where your place is, don't panic. It only took me 15 years to figure it out. But there is a place for you. There is a way that you can serve this community. Find what you love and dive in head first and give it all you have. Thank you all. Thank you. Okay, so I threw a lot at you. And I asked the museum crew, I said, do you care if I open it up for questions? I know some of you got to leave, you got buses to catch, all the things. But I didn't want to leave without offering to answer questions. And I'll also be in the back if you want to come up and chat with me. But can I get at least one question? Does anybody have any questions at all about agriculture, about my career, my experiences, where to start, okay, I'm gonna start here and then I'll come here. Oh, there's a mic. Sorry, sweetie, there you go.
Oh, shit, okay. Oh.
You got it, you got it.
Have you ever been to PBR, like interviewed anybody from PBR?
Yeah, so there was a video in New York. In my video, that's Jess Lockwood, a PBR world champion. So that's what I did. So my job with the PBR was to stand at the gate after they like buck off, fall off, whatever. They can't breathe, half of them are bloody, and I was the girl that would stand there and be like, so tell me, how'd that go? That's what I got to do. So I got to interview a lot of those guys. And what's so cool about the PBR is when I came back as a stock contractor, oh man, they loved it. They were so supportive and they were just cheering us on the whole way. So yeah, I'm a very big fan of the PBR. Another question. Yeah, right here.
What's your favorite part about your job?
Oh, my favorite part about my job. My favorite part of my job, without a doubt, is the people. It is absolutely the people. I love speaking. I love being on TV. I love being a bucking bull mom, but it's coming to events all around the country and being able to interact with agriculture people. They're the best. I'm biased, but they're the best. All right, let's go over to this side of the room. I have a mic over here. Oh yes, here, right here. He's been very patient with the headphones.
Hold on, brain not working.
It's okay, it happens to me all the time.
I don't have microphones. Can I just say it here?
Take a minute, I'll come back to you. How about right behind you?
So when you were on the rodeo team, what exactly did you do?
Ooh, great question. So I competed in the barrel racing, the breakaway roping, and the goat tying. I even brought my own goats to Oklahoma State. So yes, it was very cowgirl. Big truck, big trailer. Wrecked the truck a couple of times trying to get into the parking garage. And so my mom loaned me her car, which I loved because then I could put my goats in the back seat of my mom's car and like zip them around campus. OSU is the greatest school ever, I'm just saying. But yeah, I competed at the college rodeos in the breakaway, the goat tying, and the barrel racing. Right here at this table.
What was your favorite class at OSU?
Ooh, my favorite class, well, obviously it was my broadcast class with Dr. Cartmel. I loved my internship, and then the broadcast class, I got to even further my skills and learn how to shoot and edit and do all of the things. But I had a fabulous time at Oklahoma State, and I loved it all. My math class was a little touch and go, but yes, ma'am.
So I have my ag comm class here. I'm an ag teacher.
Amazing.
So I brought my ag comm class.
Okay.
Can you give them some motivation on their public speaking skills? Because they're currently struggling with their speeches right now.
Of course. Public speaking, and I don't fact check me on this, but I'm pretty sure public speaking is like the #1 fear that people have, right? Like people, which is so funny. I can get up and speak to a group, I can speak to millions of people on TV, but if you take me to a party where I have to mingle and talk to people, I'll sit in the back of the table in horror. I am not good at talking to people sometimes in real life. I think the key to being a great speaker is you have to, are you ready for this? Do it. You have to do it. And you can start, okay, I see you all just shrinking in. Start in your bedroom. This is a key, I've never done an ag career keynote. I stood in my apartment, in my kitchen, and I gave this about 15 times. Give it over and over and over and video yourself. Oh, the horror. Then go back and watch yourself on video, and then you'll begin to learn how to improve, what you do wrong. You're like, oh my gosh, I use my hands too much. Did you notice I walk a lot? Sometimes I watch my video and I'm like, whoa, I need to slow down. I do this for a living, and I still see things that I need to improve. You'll never be perfect, but you will never get good at it if you don't start. Who else? Yeah, right here.
Do you have any advice for women in ag?
Oh, that's a beautiful one. Any advice for women in agriculture? As a woman in agriculture who could not find my place for a really long time, as a woman in agriculture who is still to this day intimidated sometimes to walk into rooms that I know are gonna be full of people like my dad and my grandfather, you have to have courage. And I use this in a lot of my keynotes. You gotta tap into that cowgirl courage. Whether you consider yourself a cowgirl or not, you have to have the courage to sit at the table. You have to have the courage, even when you don't feel like you belong, you gotta have the courage to at least walk in and be a voice at the table. Ladies, there is something really incredible about women in ag. Men and women are equally as important in this industry, but women bring something to the table that is unique and that is so needed in agriculture. So do not be afraid to show up and have a seat at the table. Yes, sure.
How long have you been rodeoing before you made college?
Yeah, so I started high school rodeoing in Kansas. I am so old that the Junior High Rodeo Association wasn't even invented yet. So I started like junior rodeoing in Kansas, then I high school rodeoed, went to the National High School Finals, and then eventually went to Oklahoma State. Yeah, right here. There's one right by you.
Was it hard to balance like the college life versus the rodeo team?
Yeah, absolutely. Balancing the rodeo team in college is no joke, especially at a big university like Oklahoma State that really demands that your academics take priority. Because if you're not familiar with rodeo in college, every weekend you're on the road. And it's not a coach driving you. You're not borrowing someone else's horses. It's your truck, your trailer, your horses, and it is your responsibility to get to and from the rodeo and to make sure that you're still showing up for your classes. So a lot of times we would haul together and somebody would drive and somebody would sit in the one seat and do homework and then you would switch. And it wasn't unusual to be at a college rodeo somewhere in Oklahoma or Kansas and to see kids sitting in the stands studying for tests, studying for finals. It's one of those things, if it's something you want to do, you have to make the decision that you're gonna sacrifice some things. But I did it all. I still had a lot of fun at Oklahoma State. So if I can do it, you can do it. I know we got a bunch more. I'll let y'all kind of, go for it.
We've got one in the back of the room.
Yes, right here.
Have you worked with any clothing brands? And if so, which one's your favorite?
Ooh, okay, this is a great one. Have I worked with any clothing brands? So I don't do a ton of brand deals. It's just really not something that I do. But my favorite, and I'm gonna tell you a secret, the best cowboy hat maker in the world is right here in Oklahoma City. And it is a woman, and her name is Shorty of Shorty's Cowboy Hattery down in the stockyards. And Shorty makes all of my hats. And I met Shorty in college, and she, if you know her, you love her. She's loud, she's short, and she has a lot of opinions. And I walked in to Oklahoma State with a really rough-looking cowboy hat. It was all I had. And she took the hat off my head and she said, I don't ever want to see that on you again. And she's been making my hats ever since. But she has a really cool story. Look her up if you're ever in the stockyards. Pop in to Shorty's and take a look at some of her cowboy hats. So that would be my favorite, Shorty's. Yes.
Do you have any advice for kids who want to one day become their own business owners or entrepreneurs?
Oh, yeah. Business owners and entrepreneurs. So I've done a little bit of both. I started out working for the television networks, right? I had a big boss. And then I now am completely contracted. So I am my own boss. And entrepreneurship, I'm gonna tell you right now, is hard. And it is not always fun. That video I showed you, that's the highlight reel, right? I didn't show you all the hours I spent negotiating contracts. I didn't show you all the hours that I'm sending emails saying, hey, you haven't paid me. It's been 9 months. Like, can anybody? Being an entrepreneur is hard, but I would not trade it for the world because there's something so rewarding about being your own boss. And there's something so rewarding about being able to define my own path in ag, right? The only person I have to answer to is me, and I love it. Now, hopefully someday I'll have employees and all of that, but right now, it's just me. But my advice would be, if it's something that you're interested in, go for it, don't wait. Because I think the number one thing that business owners and entrepreneurs, people that have a dream, they're like, I really want to do this. I want to launch this business. I've got this idea, but it's not time. It's not time. I'm not ready yet. It's not time. It's not time. Launch it. You don't need the website. You don't need to have a business plan. You've got to start, and all of that will come. I didn't have a clue what being a business owner meant, and I just dove in, and you're going to figure it out along the way. And you can always message me or email me, and I will try to help you. And if I can't help you, I will find someone who can. Who else?
So how often do you go around and speak and advocate for ag and just tell your story?
Yeah, that's great. So as I just said, I'm an entrepreneur, right? I'm my boss. It just depends. There are some months where I am on an airplane 2 to 3 times a week. And then there are some months where I'm like, as an entrepreneur, I'm like, holy cow, will the phone ever ring again? Am I going to starve to death? That's the beauty of the business. So it just really depends. Sometimes certain parts of the year are busier than others. At the end of the year, I always do the commentating for the National Cutting Horse Association's Futurity and World Finals, so I'm gearing up for that. It's not public knowledge, but I'm going back to Australia for a big project in February. So I just open my inbox every morning and it is a surprise. But that's a great question. We can do a few more. Are you ready? How you feeling? Okay, I'm gonna get you a mic. He's feeling good, you're feeling good.
A bit. So, what is your favorite place you've been to and why were you there?
Oh man, that's the hardest question in the world. I have been all over the world. So traveling is just something I've always loved. And so a lot of times I just take trips to different parts of the world just because I want to see them. My most recent trip, and so it's top of mind, was Australia. And I absolutely loved that. The people were lovely. And I got to really interact with the cowboy and cowgirl culture in Australia, which was really cool. My other favorite travel memory ever, I was in a town called Siena in Italy. And I was staying with a family that had nothing to do with ag. And they came down one morning and they're like, hey, we heard, do you like horses? And I was like, do I like horses? And they're like, we're gonna go to this race in this town called Siena. It's bareback and there are no rules, and they race the horses through the streets. And I said, please, sign me up. It's called the Palio de Siena, and it is a bareback, no rules horse race through this medieval town, and it was the coolest thing I've ever seen. Yeah, right here. Whoever, you can pick. I'm making the mic runners work.
So how did you find your sense of style?
Ooh, that's a good one. Do you think I have good style? That's the first question. Okay, thank you. It's been a work in progress. You know, fashion was something that I always loved. I think maybe because I grew up in a small town in Kansas, and so I would look at the women in the magazines in New York and on the streets of Europe, and they just seemed so confident. And that was really what I loved about fashion. I love how it makes women and men feel and how they hold themselves. And I was like, I want to look like that someday. Man, I've had some bad fashion moments. I am here to tell you, my friend, there have been some bad outfits. I just sort of learned as I went. And I just leaned into what I love. I am a blazer gal. If you're familiar with me at all, 90% of the time I am in a blazer. I think they look very professional. If you're ever going to an event and you don't know what to wear, throw on a blazer because it dresses up the outfit, it makes you look professional, it makes you look put together. If you want to, really fluff it up, put on a wild rag and call it a day. But, it evolved as I went. How about two more? I don't know how much more time we have, so.
What has been the toughest challenge in your career?
Oh, that's a good one. What has been the toughest challenge in my career? So when I left mainstream television, I was working at a network TV show in Dallas in 2017, and they canceled the show, which was a blessing because I was like, I'm ready to be out. I'm gonna go out on my own. I want to take the jobs that I'm passionate about. So I'm gonna go out on my own. I'm gonna be my own boss. I'm gonna have all these TV jobs. I did not have a job for a year. And do you want to know how I paid my rent? I walked dogs in Dallas, Texas. And that was hard because I would be on the streets of Dallas walking these dogs so that I could pay my rent, and I was so embarrassed because my TV career, that was my identity. Without television, who was I? I was worthless. That was how I felt. But I had to make the decision, and I want y'all to listen to this. Your career does not define your worth. Do not let a job dictate the value that you see in yourself, because it wasn't the TV job that made me special. But it took me a while to figure that out. That was the hardest point in my career, was that transition from hard news, working for a TV station, having 15 bosses, being told what to do, going out on my own, thinking I'm a great TV host, I'm gonna have no problem getting work, and I didn't have a job for a year. And I had to learn that my value was not in my career title. So that was a great question, and that was definitely the hardest part of my journey. Any questions over here? Yeah, go for it.
Is there a place that you have not been but you would like to speak at?
Ooh, a place I have not been that I would like. Yes, so many. Where would I like to speak? You know, I've never said it out loud, but if the National FFA organization called me again, I would say yes. I know there's an NFL player that's done the keynote twice. I think Terry Bradshaw's done it twice at National FFA. So I've been there, but I would love to go back because that was such an incredible experience. And if you're not familiar with FFA, Future Farmers of America, look it up and see how you can get involved because it is an incredible, incredible organization. I'd also like to check Canada off my list. I haven't spoken in Canada yet, so that'd be a good one. Yes.
One last question.
One last question.
So, how would anyone, like, say, in high school, how would they get involved in agriculture, like right now?
It's a beautiful question. Well, guess what? The good news is you got involved today. You got involved because your school or your teacher or whoever said, hey, we're going to go to the National Cowboy Museum and come to this thing. If you want to be involved, walk out these doors and go to these booths and walk up to the people sitting in this room and say, how can I get involved? My career started with an internship, right? If you have friends or family who are doing something you're interested in, ask if you can come out and shadow them. You cannot be afraid to put yourself out there. That's the key. Think about my friend Mikan, a man from Brazil who came from nothing. He interned at a ranch, and now he is one of the most renowned stock dog trainers in the world. You have to have the courage to fight for yourself. And that's something that I learned in television, right? Television is incredibly competitive. I landed my first TV job because I sent an email once a month for 8 months like a total stalker and said, hey, if anything opens up, keep me in mind. They never responded until month 9. And that's how I landed my first TV job. You gotta fight for it. Agriculture is special, and I want you to be involved. So start right here, right now, today. Walk out and get business cards, get contacts. I am going to share, that is my social media. Everyone right now, follow me on social media, and if you have a question, if you can't find an entry point, message me and I will help you find an entry point into agriculture. All right, guys, thank you so much.